Okay, so in this film, Paddington wants to get a present for his Aunt Lucy because he misses his Aunt Lucy's back in Peru, and it's her 100th birthday. So he sets his heart on this pop-up book of London because Aunt Lucy never got to go to London. He sets his heart on it, tries to earn the money, but little does he know that somebody else has his eye on the pop-up book. Our villain, a vain actor called Phoenix Buchanan, and he wants the book for more nefarious purposes. Therein lies the sort of the central conflict of the film, and really we wanted to again, look at Paddington's values and what he was taught by his Aunt Lucy, which was to look for the good in people. And if you look for the good in people, you find it, and not to judge books by covers. We meet a celebrity and we meet a criminal, but when you scratch the surface, they're very different underneath, and I think that's a sort of central message of the film, yeah.
And when you were casting a vain, nefarious, washed-up actor, why did you go for National Treasure Hugh Grant?
Well, Hugh Grant, we actually called the character Hugh Grant. In the first draft, he was Hugh Grant, and we had to change it actually because we had Hugh Bonneville. People kept getting confused on who we were talking about. So, well, we didn't think that. We just thought that Hugh Grant would be really funny playing that sort of character. And I think actors actually do quite like playing actors because they do quite like to send themselves up because it's quite a ridiculous profession in many ways. Thankfully, he embraced it and wasn't too offended, and I think he had a whale of a time.
And obviously the film's packed with action and adventure as always. Is there a particular sequence that you enjoy the most and you think audiences are going to have the most delight at this time? There is a lot of action and adventure, but the scene that always makes me laugh most is a visiting room scene with when the Browns meet the prisoners, and it's actually quite a still sort of scene. But that's one to look out for. It really makes me laugh because it sets Mr. Brown up, who's this very middle-class, very sort of guarded man, up against Brendan Gleeson, who's a career criminal, and it's quite a funny juxtaposition, I think. I think it's up to people what they take for it. We just feel that Paddington is the philosophy of that Paddington imbues. We love being kind and polite, and that's a great thing in the world, and don't judge people by their appearances, and we just think those values are really universal, and hope that people can see the good in them and embrace them, yeah. Final question. Obviously, Paddington is a character that's lived on our pages and screen for a long time. Do we think this is the last time we're going to see him on the big screen, or are we hopefully going to get many more adventures?
Oh, I think there's plenty of potential stories in the book, so I would have thought there would be another one if the public demand it. Yeah, why not?
As someone who had the luxury of growing up with this little bear, can you articulate for you what the spirit, the magic of Paddington is?
I think he's just a very warm, kind person. Well, bear, obviously. He was a part of our family. And I think that Paddington is very well-meaning, and everything that goes wrong for Paddington, it'll turn out all right in the end. That's what makes him such a special character.
Of course, the last film was such a beautiful adventure. Can you tell us a little bit about what is unique about this film, what fans can expect from the film?
Well, Paddington gets involved in all sorts of shenanigans. He tries to buy a present for his Aunt Lucy and unfortunately gets stolen, and he gets wrongly accused. And you do actually see Paddington going to prison. But as you can imagine with Paddington, you don't need to worry. It's all going to turn out all right in the end.
Paddington is genuinely, wholeheartedly a good bear. He's non-judgmental, he loves everyone, he thinks the best of everyone, he's optimistic, he cares for other people. He's just a genuinely positive, good thing altogether. So everyone warms to him. He loves us, so we love him.
Do you think that the message of kindness and its importance is one that the world seems to have forgotten at times?
I think so. I think Paddington is the kindest creature we know, really, and he symbolises that. And particularly now, it's great to be reminded of that, and I think everyone will come away with that, and with a bit more love and a bit more optimism and a bit more care. I hope so.
We hope so too. And obviously,
Ben providing the voice of Paddington seems to have really captured the spirit of the character. As someone who's had the pleasure of working alongside him in a sense on this film, can you talk about what is so special about his performance vocally?
Well, I haven't seen the second one yet, but the first one, Ben is just he's a wonderful character, and he's perfect casting for the voice of Paddington. You know, he too is a genuinely kind and gentle person, and it's great to have him as Paddington. I feel privileged to know them both.
Final question, looking to the future, where are we going to see you next? What else have you got coming up at the moment yourself?
Well, what's coming up next? The film about the old guys who robbed the Hatton Garden. Thing that I'm not sure what it's called at the moment. The title is, but that's coming soon. At the moment I've grown this because we're doing a TV film of King Lear with Anthony Hopkins as Lear, so that's coming up before long, and there's a few other things in the pipeline.
Can you talk about how this Paddington adventure compares to the last one and what it was like working with Mr. Hugh Grant? Because obviously your character and his not exactly the best friend.
No, Mrs. Bird didn't like Phoenix Buchanan, played by Hugh Grant, mainly because he's an actor. She doesn't trust them. She's quite right, of course. So she doesn't. Yeah, they're liars and dishonest and very slippery. But I think what's different is that it is a bigger film in many ways. It's the same kind of wonderful message that it's got, because Paddington is at the centre of it. But it's got, you know, I do my own stunts, for instance, jumping from train to train. And so there's all of that. It's just bigger in that sense. It's a bigger vista. It's a bigger world. Paddington goes out there, you know. And so, yeah. And I love Sally and Hugh, and I love the children. I love the family. It was great to have Hugh in as well, because he was so hilarious. But it's lovely to go back to work with the same people.
Your character is part of the community in Paddington. How important a theme do you think that message is in this story?
Well, Paddington, as you know, has got some wonderful themes. I mean, Paddington himself is a sort of refugee, really, who's been welcomed into eventually was welcomed into the Brown household. And, yeah, we're starting to see Paddington's effect now on the neighbourhood in which he lives, you know, and he brings an enormous amount. And through the course of events in the film, he's removed from that neighbourhood, and everyone realises just how much he's missed. It was so much fun. Can you imagine? I mean, when we were playing these neighbourhood scenes, it was sort of all your favourite comedy actors, all in one place, all wearing ridiculous costumes. It was hard not to. It was hard not to have a fabulous time, actually, and especially Hugh Grant being unbelievably funny constantly. I mean, I can only imagine a tenth of what he did is in the film, because he was constantly improvising and adding lines, and it was wonderful. He's got a great character. He plays a fantastic character. This character, Phoenix, who's a sort of washed-up actor who dreams of, who dreams of the big lights again, and who, I'm not going to give away. He ends up being something of the villain of the piece and framing Paddington, and Paddington has to sort of prove his innocence. So he's got it all, really, Hugh. He's the sort of slightly moustache-twirling villain, but he's also got some fantastic disguises, because he's an actor, he plays all these different characters in the film, and so it's a real tour de force. It's absolutely wonderful to watch. It was an absolute joy to be there when he was doing it.
I think he's an awesome bear. I mean, I think if he had a different personality, I think while the fact that he's a bear would still be cute, I think, he wouldn't have lasted as long. If he'd been, an arsehole, it wouldn't have worked.
I think obviously the message of the importance of kindness is right at the heart of this story. Why do you think that now is an especially valuable time for that message to be getting out there?
Do you know what? I don't think it's an especially. I think kindness has always been the most important, most valuable quality in any human being. Kindness is the most important thing.
The timeless magic of Paddington. You know, he's an innocent, and so kids relate to him because he's innocent. He's an outsider. Kids also feel like outsiders. You know, all kids want to be part of something, and there's a fear of being left out, not being part of something as well. So I think, and he's very funny, and he's cute, and so that's a heady combination, which is that, you know, he represents the outsider. He's childlike in his innocence, and views the world in a much more kind of simplified way than you know, grown-ups kind of complicate things, and he doesn't. So that appeals to kids and hopefully reminds adults of how they once were as well. So he's an incredibly hopeful character, and being very funny and charming.
And of course, I think the real message of particularly this film is about kindness, it's about tolerance. Do you think that's an especially important message for the world at this time?
Yeah, I think the theme of kindness within the film, I think, is an important message at any time, but particularly at the moment, or, you know, certainly over the last couple of years, kindness is something that people seem to value less. You know, ambition is kind of highly valued, money has always been highly valued, but kindness and compassion perhaps less so. So I think it's a great timely reminder.
And looking to the future, what else have you got coming up at the moment?
Oh, what have I got coming up? There's series 3 of Unforgotten, which is an ITV crime drama series I've done. We start shooting that in February, but that's as far ahead as I can see at the moment.
The extraordinary arrival of him in London, you know, little bear from Peru finding himself in London, it's a kind of magical idea. And then the family that picks him up, it's all about goodness, and that's his sort of morality in life, is be good and be nice to people. That's what his Aunt Lucy taught him, and it's a good lesson for children to learn, that that's the thing that works. Nothing else really works, but being nice and being kind always works. Good thing to say to children, really, isn't it?
It's a very good thing to say. For people who haven't seen the film, can you tell us just a little bit about where you fit into Paddington's misadventures, because you proved to be quite a prominent turning point for the story.
Yeah, well, I play this rather bad-tempered. Well, he wasn't bad-tempered until Paddington shaved half his hair off, and then he kind of took against Paddington. Made life a bit tricky for him, but it all kind of worked out in the end. There are bits which didn't end up in the movie, where it sort of came slightly better. A movie always goes through various stages. Scripts change all the time. Then you read one version, and then the version that you're in, there's a new bit in it, and that bit's gone. And you know, it's a kaleidoscope, really. A movie script. It never stays the same for 2 days.
Like you mentioned, your character has a minor hair mishap due to Paddington. Was that a real shaving, or was that the magic of makeup and hair special effects?
Oh no, it was real. Absolutely, everything's real, isn't it?
What have you got coming up? Is there anything else we should be looking out for you in the future?
Yes, in the theatre in London, a new version of the Seagull, Chekhov's Seagull, which is very funny, more like Eggbore than what people normally think of as Chekhov. Let's come and see that.
You know, Paddington there's not an ounce of cynicism in Paddington. He's generous-spirited, big-hearted, looks for the good in people, but at the same time doesn't suffer fools, is kind to everyone, and you know, has a big beating heart. That's a wonderful character to work with, and it's a wonderful thing to put out into the world. So in this adventure, we didn't want to make a remake of the first film. At the end of the first film, Paddington had found a home. So this time we want to make a different film, and so the home is taken away from Paddington. In this new adventure, it's really about community, about how small acts of kindness can make the world a better place, and how looking for the good in people, you will find that goodness, and in finding that goodness, you will allow people to bring out that goodness. Don't judge a book by a cover. Be open to people's possibilities.
It's an amazing ensemble cast yet again. Can you talk about particularly people like Brendan and Hugh Grant and what they bring to the film?
Well, Paddington himself is quite a draw, and Paul King and Simon wrote a brilliant script. And Paul's first film, and he as a person and as a talent, is undeniable. And so they came with their A game. it's such a pleasure to have Brendan. I think it's easy to underestimate Brendan's performance. It is the pitch of the film is slightly heightened. It's truthful, always truthful, but slightly heightened. To be able to to portray danger, but not too dangerous that it will scare children. To then be like Santa and warm and cozy, the way Brendan does, but not in a sentimental way. Every moment, I've seen some moments maybe 1,000 times. Every time I see them, they provide something new. I think he's exceptional. Hugh Grant, what can one say about Hugh Grant? You know, he's a comic genius, and to watch him and Paul work side by side to mine every moment for its comic potential was one of the highlights of the film, or making the film. And you know, it's great to see him get the credit that he so richly deserves. And it's great to see him be as funny as I think he's ever been, but not in the way that we've seen him be funny. Funny as a baddie who we love to hate but love at the same time. He's great.
I think he's charming because he's so innocent, so open, so trusting, so willing to find the best in people, and I think it never becomes cloying or irritating. He's adorable, and so that's a very special combination of things, I think. The whole time I'm recording the voice, there's a camera several cameras filming my face and my mouth and my eyes and everything. And then we would do sometimes sessions when I would act things out to help them, you know, because it's very hard it's extraordinary the work they do to build that bear from nothing. They asked me to do stuff, and then they work their magic, yeah. I just sort of see him as me, you know, yeah.
And what does the film tell us about immigration? What's the message there?
Well, I think it has a message of inclusiveness, openness, loving kindness to people who are in need and who are vulnerable and who are lost.
Tell us about your Mary Poppins project.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We finished earlier in the year, and I think it's out this time next year, which is wild. But I'm really excited to see. I'm a very big Mary Poppins fan, so I can't wait to see it actually. Yeah.
What will you take away from this Paddington 2 project?
I loved the experience of working with Paul King again, the director. He's just brilliant. It's really his tireless work and creativity that makes the film it is, I think. He always wants to hear what you have to say. He's very open, but he's very exacting. He knows exactly when it's right and when it's not, and he won't let you off the hook until it's perfect. He's amazing.
Any colleague you particularly enjoyed working with?
Well, I don't really get to interact live with anybody. They've done all their work, but I loved watching all of them. I mean, they're hilarious, and everyone is so beautiful, and the comedy is so perfectly judged. I loved watching them in the studio. Yeah.
Talking about working with great people, how excited are you that you are going to get the chance to work with Daniel again, of course, for a final time on Bond?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I don't know anything about that film. So I know as much as you, but I'm excited. Yeah. A really thrilling, very funny, very delightful, and I think moving film. It's charming, it's playful, it's innocent without ever being kind of cloying or sentimental, and it's really escapism, you know, but I hope beautiful escapism, and yeah, you'll hopefully forget your troubles for a while.